Hello viewers, a good day to you all. This is a question on sets and Venn diagrams, and the question is picked from the WASSCE exam 2018, question number 6 to be precise. And I read the question to us. In a roadworthiness test on 240 cars, 60% passed. The number that failed had faults in clutch, brakes, and steering as follows. Clutch only 28, clutch and steering 14, clutch, steering and brakes 8, clutch and brakes 20, brakes and steering only 6. The number of cars with faults in steering only is twice the number of cars with faults in brakes only. Now on to the question. A. Draw a Venn diagram to illustrate this information. B. How many cars had faulty brakes? And for B Roman figure 2, how many cars had only one fault? So this is the question. I'm going to be interpreting the question before we move on to the solution aspect. Now, in a roadworthiness test, says the question on 240 cars. There are 240 cars. They try to look at the cars that saw a particular road, the cars that are passing a particular road, and the number of cars they are considering are 240 of them. So they try to check how many of these cars are fit to be on the road, how many of them are not fit to be on the road. Now it was discovered that 60% of those cars, 60% of 240 cars are fit to be on the road. They didn't have any faults in any way. But then the remaining 40%, because of course, out of 100%, if 60% has been taken off, we'll be having 40% left. So the remaining 40%, they had faults in the following. Some fault in clutch, others fault in brakes, and the rest fault in steering. So those are the different aspects where those other 40% had fault. Now, these are how their fault goes. Clutch only 28 cars. Now, for those cars that had fault in clutch only, there are 28 of them. Those that had fault in clutch and steering, 14. And I used to say something to you anytime you want to work on set and Venn diagram, that you should watch out for this word only. That word is very, very important. Only. Watch out for it. When you see this word only, you should take note of it, because you'll be needing them, or you'll be needing this word whenever you want to set up your Venn diagram. Now, clutch only, there are 28 cars. Clutch and steering, there are 14 cars. You can see that there is no only in this case. Clutch, steering, and brakes, the one that combines the three of them, there are 8 cars. Clutch and brakes, there are 20 cars having fault in those two. Brakes and steering only, there are 6 cars. Then the number of cars with fault in steering only, you do not know that. But the information is that there are 2 times the number of cars with faults in brakes only. And this is the preambles to our question. And the question asks us to draw a Venn diagram. So here we are. Now, I've put up some things before now, and I'm going to be explaining them very quickly. Number of cars that passed the test according to the question, 60% passed the test. Now, to get 60% of 240, we are going to have 60 over 100, which is 60%, multiplied by 240 cars on which the tests are run. And we have 144. It means that 144 cars passed the test. Now, number of cars that failed will then be 240, which is the total number of cars under observation, minus 144 that already passed. That's the what? 96. So 96 cars failed the test. So we want to bring out our parameters, but then before we start bringing out our parameters, we need to use letters to represent the fault, each of the faults that are mentioned in the question. And I put that up as this. Let C B, and S represent the cars that had faults in clutch, brakes, and steering respectively. So C is for clutch, B is for brakes, and S is for steering. That is what that is saying. Now we are bringing up the parameters now. The first thing that was mentioned is this: clutch only. 28 cars had faults in clutch only. Now, how do we represent clutch only? The representation for clutch only is this: number of clutch intersection brakes prime intersection steering primes. That's equals to 28, because the question says number of cars that had problems or faults in clutch only. There are 28. So clutch only is clutch intersection brake prime intersection steering prime, and that's equals 28. The next one is this: clutch and steering. 14 cars had faults in clutch and steering. And I said to you, this clutch and steering does not involve only. So when they say clutch and steering, what is the representation for clutch and steering? So number of cars that had faults in clutch and steering, that's clutch intersection steering, that's going to be 14 according to what we have there. Now, clutch and steering, that's the caption. The next one: number of cars that had faults in clutch, steering, and brakes. This is the combination of the three. Had faults in clutch, in steering, and in brakes. There are 8 of them. So number of cars that have faults in clutch, intersection brakes, intersection steering, there are 8 of them. The next one: number of cars that had faults in clutch and brakes. Clutch and brakes, they are 20. Clutch and brakes, they are 20. So I'm going to be representing that here. Number of cars with faults in clutch intersection brakes, they are 20. I hope that is same. 20. Proceeding further, number of cars that had faults in brakes and steering only. Brakes and steering only, there are 6 of them. Brakes and steering only, this is the representation for that. Number of cars that had faults in brakes and steering only, and that's going to be clutch prime, because clutch was not mentioned. So you say brakes and steering only, intersection brake, intersection steering. There are how many of them? Brakes and steering only, 6 of them. Had fault in brakes and steering only. Moving on, it now proceeded by saying the number of cars with fault in steering only, is twice, 2 times the number of cars with fault in brakes only. Steering only is 2 times the number of cars with brakes only, fault in brakes only. Now, how do we go about that? This is 8. There's a full stop after this. Now you say let number of cars that have fault in brakes only, give a representation for that. Number of cars that have fault in brakes only, so that's going to be clutch prime intersection brake intersection steering prime. You let it to be equals to X. This is what we mean by brakes only. When we say brakes only, so it's going to be clutch prime intersection brake intersection steering prime, and that's brake only. We don't know the number, so we let them to be equals to X. Since this is equals to X, we know that the number of cars having fault in steering only is 2 times of this X. So number of cars, let this to be this, therefore number of cars with fault in steering only, that's going to be clutch prime intersection brakes prime, now intersection steering. That's the representation for steering only. That's now going to be equals to 2x, because it's going to be 2 times of this particular one. So I think everything in the question here has been captured by these parameters. So the next thing is that we should draw a Venn diagram to illustrate this information, and that is our question A. Draw a Venn diagram to illustrate the information. So we are proceeding to drawing our Venn diagram now. And of course, in our Venn diagram, 3 parameters are mentioned here. We have the clutch, we have the brakes, and we have the steering. So it means that we are going to have 3 different circles. 3 different circles. And our circles are going to be something like this. First one for clutch, C. Second one for brake, B. Third one for steering, S. So our 3 circles are this, and then we are going to need our rectangular closure. This rectangular closure is the one carrying the universal set, telling us how many entries we are looking at in total. Alright, so what I always recommend is that whenever you draw a Venn diagram like this, you want to start from the innermost, that's inside out. What do I mean by innermost? The one that combines the 3 parameters, and the 3 parameters are clutch, brakes, and steering again. So the one that combines clutch, brakes, and steering, there are 8 of them, and these 3, since it concerns all of them, is going to be the one at the innermost. So this central part is going to be 8. That is what it means. Now, since it is the one combining the 3, we'll now be going for what? 2 twos. The one in twos, clutch and brakes, clutch and steering, and then brakes and what? Steering. So we'll go for the twos. And the first 2 that were mentioned here were clutch and steering. Now they say clutch and steering, there are 14 of them. Clutch and steering, there are 14 of them. Look at the position, the portion for clutch and steering. The portion for clutch and steering looks something like this. That's the portion for clutch and steering, because clutch is up here, steering is down here. Clutch and steering, and this is the portion for it. And altogether there are 14 of them. But then, if we are going to say clutch and steering only, when we say clutch and steering only, it means that it's not going to include brakes. Now, clutch and steering only, because this one is clutch and steering, we know that this one already includes the one of brakes. Now, when we want it to be clutch and steering only so that it will not include brake, it means that this 8 has to be cut off. And when 8 is cut off, this place will no longer complete what? 14. What will now be left? We will now be what? 6. And how did we get that 6? That's going to be this 14 minus 8. So 14 minus 8 is going to be what? 6. So that's clutch and steering only. Clutch and steering only, there are 6 of them. That's that for that. The next one, we have that's in twos. We have clutch and brakes. Clutch and brakes. Number of cars that had fault in clutch and brakes. Where is the one for clutch and brake? This is the portion for clutch and brake. And in totality, they are going to have what? They are supposed to be 20. But out of this 20, this 8 has been cut off. So what will it now be left? It will be left with 12. And that 12 is going to be number of cars that had fault in clutch and brakes only. Clutch and brakes only. So clutch and brakes only are going to be what? 12. Another way to say clutch and brakes only is clutch and brake but not steering. That's another word for only. Clutch and brakes but not steering. There are 12 of them. That's another word for only. I say that again. Now, the third one, which is brakes and steering. Do we have the one for brakes and steering? Of course, we have the one for brake and steering. But when it was mentioned in the question, it was mentioned as brakes and steering only. So this one, there is no need for subtraction because it has been captured as brake and steering only, and there are what? 6 of them. So 6 goes in there directly. Because of course, even our representation tells us that it's brakes and steering only. And I said to you, another word for brakes and steering only is brakes and steering, but not clutch. That is why the clutch is being primed. Brakes and steering, but not clutch. 6 of them. So we are done with the ones of twos. We now need the one of 1, 1, 1. based on these same parameters. So what do we have? Clutch only. Were we given clutch only? Clutch only, of course, we're given clutch only. That's the very first thing they mentioned in the question. Like, where is it? Okay, clutch only, 28. Since it is already captioned only, so that's going to be what? 28. And then if you look at the last two statements, or the last statement actually, the number of cars with fault in steering only is twice the number of cars with fault in brakes only. So we now say let the one in brakes only to be equal to x. So this is going to be x. And the one of having faults in steering only, there are 2 times the one in brakes only. So that's going to be what? 2x. Now if you look at the question, getting an understanding of the question, you will discover that everything that is inside this circle, they had fault in one aspect or the other. Now there are those that do not have any fault at all, but they are among the cars that are sampled. So these ones don't have any fault, but they are among the cars that are sampled. The total cars that are sampled are 240, so the universal set is 240. Those that do not have any fault, there are 144 of them. And these 144 can go anywhere in the rectangle, but it must not be anywhere in the circle. Because the moment it enters anywhere in these 3 circles, it tells us that they also are having what? Fault. But the question says they do not have any fault, 144 of them. So they are among the sampled cars, they do not have any fault. That's why they can be here, 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 anywhere, as long as they are not inside the circles. So this is the first aspect of the question, saying draw a Venn diagram to illustrate this information. Okay, A has been dealt with. We now go for the other part, which is the part B. And the part B has 2 questions. Part B has what? 2 questions. So we have B Roman figure 1. B Roman figure 1. And what is B Roman figure 1? It says how many cars had how many cars had faulty brakes? When they say faulty brakes, they do not say brake only. Faulty brakes means those cars that have brake or fault in brakes generally. Now for us to have the cars that have faulty brakes, we need to get the value of x first of all. So how do we get the value of x? This is it. This x plus this 2x plus 28 plus 6 plus 6 plus 12 plus 8 plus 144, which is outside. All of them must be equal to the universal set, and of course the universal set is 240 because that's the total number of cars that are sampled. So we are going to start x plus 2x plus 28 plus 6 plus 6 plus 12 plus 8 plus 144. Altogether they must be equal to universal set, which is 240. So we are solving for x now. X plus 2x is going to be 3x. 3x plus 28 plus 6 is 34. 34 plus 6 is going to be 40. 40 plus 12 is 52. 52 plus 8 is 60. 60 plus 144, that is 204. Yeah, my math is still intact. 204. That must be equal to 240 altogether. So we collect like terms. So when we collect like terms, it means that 3x will be equal to 240 minus 204. And that says 3x must be equal to 36 because 240 minus 204 is going to be equal to 36. So if 3x equals to 36, what's going to be x? X will be equal to 36 divided by 3, and of course 36 divided by 3 is going to be what? It's going to be 12. So the value of x firstly is 12. That's that. Now we can now proceed to solving B Roman figure 1. Let me carve out a space here. So what's going to be B Roman figure 1 now? Say, how many cars had faulty brakes? So when we talk about faulty brakes, what is brakes? Look at the circle for brakes generally. Everything in here make up the brakes, because they did not say brakes only. If they had said brakes only, that would have been 12, representing x. That would have been 12. But they did not say, they didn't mention only. So brakes generally is going to be this. So that's going to be number of cars having faulty brakes, n of b. That's going to be equals to the first one, which is x. Of course, x has been gotten to be 12, plus the second one, which is 6, plus the third one, which is 8, still inside a b, and plus the fourth one, which is 12, still inside a b. So all of these are in b, plus 12. And when we add everything together, what are they going to give to us? 12 plus 6 is going to be 18. 18 plus 8, yeah, that's going to be 26. And 26 plus 12 is going to be equal to what? 38. So number of cars with faulty brakes, there are 38 of them. That's B Roman figure 1. And for B Roman figure 2, it says, how many cars had only one fault? So when we talk about only one fault can be either clutch only, or brakes only, or steering only. So only one fault. Number with only one fault. Of course, that's going to be clutch only, which is 28, plus brakes only, 12 of them, plus steering only, of course, 2 times of 12, that's 24. And 28 plus 12 should give us 40. 40 plus 24 gives 64. So these are the number of cars that had only one fault. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the solution to WASSCE 2018 number 6. Expect more videos like this. In the meantime, enjoy this one. Peace out.